This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to call the Village Board of Managers meeting for April 13th to order. I've got the honor of sitting in tonight for our chairman, Alyssa Leonard, who has a scheduled family event tonight, so she was unable to join us. And we have a quorum, and we have a not a lengthy agenda, but we do have an important agenda. So with that, let's see if we can start things off with the approval of minutes from the previous Board of Managers meeting. If folks have had a chance to review it, and if there's a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the monthly meeting held on March 9th, 2026 as drafted.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And the minutes are approved unanimously. And then from there on to item 3 on the agenda, appeals, special permits, and a variance request. With that, Aurelio.
Thank you. All right, this is case A2917, and it is a tree removal appeal submitted by Mr. Joel Kaplan and Mrs. Joanna Schwartz of 15 West Lenox Street. The applicants request a permit to remove 2 trees, including 1 red maple tree measuring 13 inches in diameter and 1 lacebark elm tree measuring 11 inches in diameter, both located in the front south yard, to accommodate the planting of different native species, to promote the canopy of other existing trees on the property, and to allow more sunlight into the front yard of the property. The applicants intend to reforest with a total of 7 trees, 6 in the rear yard and 1 in the front yard. The applicants assert that there is excessive canopy along the front yard of the property, and that their goal is to increase sunlight to the property and to create a net gain of meaningful and functional canopy coverage. They further state that the increased sunlight will be beneficial to the remaining trees, ground cover, and plants. This case was originally scheduled to be held at the board's February meeting, but was withdrawn at the applicant's request. The village arborist assessed the trees requested for removal and determined that they are healthy, thriving, and he conservatively estimated that the age of the trees to be between 15 and 20 years. The applicants appealed the denial of the removals to the village's tree ordinance board, who inspected the trees and, after speaking with the budding and confronting neighbors, issued a report recommending denial of the removals due to opposition from multiple neighbors. The applicants requested consideration of their appeal by the village board, and the notice of the original scheduled and this evening's hearings were sent to the tree committee. The tree committee issued a report recommending denial of the appeal, citing that the requested trees are healthy and thriving, and that the particular concern to the committee is the ability to plant canopy trees in the adjacent tree box in the public right-of-way due to the overhead power lines along the north side of the street. The committee further stated that the trees requested for removal by the applicants provide needed canopy coverage to the north side of the street, that the proposed reforestation plan will not adequately replace. All of the applicants have modified their original case to reduce the number of trees to be removed by 1 and to increase the number of proposed reforestation trees by 1, including adding 1 proposed reforestation tree in the front yard. The tree committee confirmed their original recommendation still stands. 6 letters have been submitted for the record, 2 from abutting and confronting neighbors in opposition, and 4 from neighbors in support who do not live adjacent to the property.
I just wanted to also just note for the record that in reviewing prior case history in preparation for the tonight's hearing, staff identified that there were actually 4 prior tree removal appeals that were denied by the village board rather than the 2 that are quoted in the staff report. So we just wanted to correct for the record that the case precedence is a total of 4 denials dating back to 1997, not the 2 as stated in the staff report. We'll correct that error.
So you commented that, the tree committee considered
Correct.
that the neighbor on the far side, that their concern was that removal of these trees would impact the canopy coverage and the shade on their property. Is that correct? Is that what?
Correct.
In summary, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think the owners have some comments. Would you like to
The
speak?
applicant
The applicant?
wants to speak, yeah.
Thank you, Julio. My name is Joseph Richardson. I'm the principal landscape architect in the firm, and I'm here on behalf of Joel Kaplan, his lovely wife. I'm not sure how confusing all of that was. It's certainly a lot to keep up with. Okay, so I'll try to be brief, but I'd like to sort of recap a bit of this. And I think maybe the quickest thing is we do have one abutting neighbor who is supporting this. I think it's the Baines, right? So it has been my experience as a landscape architect that I tend to plant way more trees than we ever remove. And so we do not take the removal of trees liberally. And we started with a really deep and thorough analysis of the existing canopy. And I'm not sure if we're able to flip through some of the slides. Yeah, let's try it. Go a couple more. You're going to see some big green circles. Okay, that's perfect. And what you'll notice here is that there are many, many trees on the south side of this house. There are some on the north side of the opposite side of the street, some large canopy trees that are in the range of maybe 50, 60 feet tall. Our public right-of-way along the sidewalk is lined with a variety of sycamores and ashes. 3 ashes directly in front of the house are nearly 30 feet tall. And on our property, we had started with the request to remove three trees. Now, the first round of this, which we were scheduled to present in February, we were proactive. We've always been proactive. We've sent letters to the neighbors. We've reached out. We had meetings with the tree ordinance board. And initially, the tree ordinance board really had no objections. It wasn't until there was a neighbor, and we actually didn't find out about this until the Friday before the Monday, okay, of the February meeting. And so it caused pause. Okay, we have some objections. Let's carefully reconsider this. And to make sort of a long story short, not only did we add additional reforestation trees well above and beyond. I think we're planting a total of 12, with 7 of those being of shade tree category, okay? We added 1 specifically to the front yard to address one of the abutting neighbors' concerns about planting and the canopy within the front yard. And also increased the size of these trees. So one important thing to note, okay, and I've reviewed some of the past cases that have come before the board of managers here. And what I've noticed is that when the removal of a tree is that often with the reforestation, you're trying to get back and replace the lost canopy. What we are proposing here are trees of not of insignificant size, minimum 3.5 inches. The one in the front would be closer to 4. That's mostly limited by what can be installed by hand. We're trying to not disrupt much of the landscape that's there now. And based on our calculations, we're actually, day 1, if we're able to move forward with this plan, we will have additional canopy than what is on the property now. Now, it will vary differently in the front yard. Okay, there'll be a loss for sure. Not a significant loss because, again, we're proposing a 4-inch sycamore to near the driveway. And actually, if we can go maybe back a couple of slides, this might make that part a little more clear. Maybe forward, let's see. Go back 1, let's go back to this photograph. I think that this is perfect, yes. So you'll see, that's me there standing in the street. The tree immediately on the left and right within that utility strip between the brick sidewalk and the road. Those are ashes. They're 30 feet tall. There's one further to the left, just in front of the car in red. And so it's not like there are not trees here in this public space. There are plenty. And actually, most of those, as Mr. Feather would attest, are lacking sunlight, primarily because of the maple and the elm tree that we were proposing to remove, which are immediately adjacent to the lead walk leading to the front door. So just as you get inside of that boxwood hedge, the tree on the left and the tree on the right.
So basically, the trees in the right of way, are they taller than the ones on the left? and right?
They're about the same height. It's kind of hard to tell, but they're all in a range of 25 to 30 feet tall. So everything here is competing for sunlight. As a result of that, it's outside of the boxwood. It's sort of fairly difficult to grow anything there in the front yard. And really, what's I think critical is, given the dense privacy trees on either property line, on the eastern side and on the western side, right? The only opportunity for this yard to get sun is from the sun on the south side. That's it. And so we've added additional reforestation trees at a level that I've never seen before, at a size that is meaningful. And instead of removing 3 trees, we've backed it down to 2. There's a sycamore further to the right that we were going to keep, and we'll do some light pruning on to let in some sunlight and just sort of maintain it that way. So fast forward, we've made these adjustments, and we're here now to answer any questions. But what I'd love to stress is, in this second round, we went back to the neighbors. We dropped off letters at their homes, asked them for any additional feedback. Before we come to this, we'd love to get all the feedback and make sure that at least we've, if not addressed everyone's concerns, but at least understood them. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And to date, as of today, I have not heard from one neighbor personally. So, I'm passionate about this. I can't imagine having put any more thought or sensitivity to this. And so I guess I'll open it up to questions.
It's the neighbor who initially opposed to the east towards Connecticut, right? Are they still opposed? Do they remain, or have they changed?
The neighbor who opposes actually across the street.
Across the street?
Yes.
Actually, there's a neighbor next door who also opposes. I'm on the line, and I'll
Okay.
talk when I have a chance. Thank
Are
you.
you on the east side? You're on the east side.
I am on the east side. I'm at 11 West Lenox, so I'm directly next door. On the east side.
I'm not a landscape architect or arborist, but let me ask you.
And by the way, we have communicated with the village, so we don't have to communicate with the neighbors. We communicated our opposition to the village directly.
The point is well taken, and we'll come to the neighbors in just a few minutes.
Okay.
So the sunlight issue, how far back from the 2 trees you're proposing, from that lineal line back to the front porch of the house, how far is that?
That's a great point. Those 2 trees, which are adolescent at best, ultimately will be
Well,
somewhere
now,
in the
these
range
aren't
of
adolescent.
the 2 that we're proposing to move. Yes, they're 20 years old, but planted 15 years ago.
The village arborist did confirm that he estimates they're between 15 and 20.
Got it. Would you call those adolescent? Maybe.
Oh, well, they're on the verge of exponential growth. So if there's something that is going to be done, as we all know, removing really large trees is extensive and difficult to do. Those trees are 26, 27 feet from the front door.
And there's no way to as an alternative, is there no way to prune those trees to create more light in the front yard without taking
Sure.
15-year-old trees down? I guess that's it.
It's very difficult. The maple's difficult to prune just given the shape of it without really sort of hacking it, for lack of a better term. And so would be the lace bark elm. It's just given the form of the tree. More mature trees such as oaks have different layers that you can thin out over time.
I could offer just a couple of thoughts to frame the issue, and then we can offer additional questions and give others on the line an opportunity to speak. But I think I have 4 or 5 thoughts having looked at this and tried to figure out the right way to think about it. Number one is probably that everyone here has done their job The Village Tree Committee has weighed in. The Village Tree Ordinance Board has weighed in. The village manager, as code requires, has done her part to say that none of the requirements are met whereby she could issue a permit to remove these trees. And neighbors have done their job, some favorable, some opposed. And so we're in the perhaps unenviable position of having to adjudicate this or nearly adjudicate this on behalf of the neighbors and on behalf of the village. But I think it's important to note everyone has done the job that they were supposed to do according to the village code and process. Probably the second point here is that the village code, especially as it addresses tree issues, which are often more contentious than other issues in the village code is titled urban forests. I believe it dates to 1988, Shana. So it has been the policy of the village for a long time to promote the expansion of canopy, planting of trees, and in particular canopy trees. You see that in the trees that we plant in the right of way. You see it in the reimbursement program we provide to residents if they plant trees on their own. Though some of us might suggest that that could be even a more generous program going forward. But the code also then does specify 8 criteria, code 17.6, that if an issue such as this lands with the village board, there's 8 criteria that we would look to. I can talk more to those in a few minutes. But so they're very, somewhat specific in that, gee, here are the topics that we would look at. But at the same time, there's a lot of leeway to the board to balance conflicting interests. And that's, I think, what our challenge will be tonight. The third point that I would make is that the neighbors have weighed in. They are not unanimous. The staff report indicates that in the past, a lot of the appeals that arrive at or applications that arrive at the tree ordinance board have been settled. I think there's a number of 30 out of 39, but they were settled by the tree ordinance board according to their criteria with a reforestation plan that they accepted and with consideration of whether neighbors were in favor or opposed. So it's just interesting to note that in this case, we have neighbors that represent substantial opposition. And there is cause in the code of the 8 criteria that the board considers. One of them is the position of neighbors and their reason. It's not an absolute that the neighbors get a final say, but we do get to consider their reason. Fourth point here is that precedent, recent historical precedent would say that on the basis of the cosmetics or preference of residents, we have not allowed removal of canopy trees. In fact, the most recent case, in my recollection, and Shana, you cited 4 precedents recently where we've denied the removal of trees. The most recent case, I think, was interesting because there was a tree in the right of way that was producing pods that were a real nuisance for the resident, and the board, taking all things into account, denied that removal request. That the inconvenience of the pods did not, in that case, outweigh the village's general policy and support of canopy trees. The fifth thing is just to then say, gosh, when you add all of this up, we end up having, as I say, the challenge of balancing those 8 factors. And I don't think we have a slide that shows the 8 factors, but just very briefly. The first is really the same considerations that the village manager might have considered in terms of are the trees in ill health. Secondly, the reasons cited by the applicant for wanting to remove the tree. Thirdly, reasons cited by residents who are either in favor of or in opposition. Fourthly, whether the tree clearing is necessary to achieve proposed development. That's been the most common case. In the staff report, when there's reference to a number of past approvals, most of those would be associated with desire to expand one's structures, house, or hardscape. The 5th standard, whether the applicant proposes reforestation. Clearly here, extensive reforestation is proposed. though not in the same place. I think it's important to point out we're giving up trees in the front for trees in the back to some extent. Sixthly, the hardship to the applicant if a permit is denied. Seventh, the desirability of preserving a tree by reason of its age, size, or outstanding qualities. It's not clear that that applies here. And then last and finally, such other relevant matters as will promote fairness and justice in deciding a particular case. We can discuss what that might mean. So those are the 8 criteria that as I've looked at this case, I've said, well, what is the guidance provided by the village code? So I'm sorry to kind of go on and enumerate those, but I thought it's important for the record, given that we have neighbors somewhat at odds, that everyone understand that the board's role tonight is to balance those sometimes conflicting factors. So without rendering an opinion on my part right now, and still eager to hear the further discussion both from the applicant and the neighbors, I just thought that the consideration of those things and the history that brought us here tonight was worthwhile. With that, other questions immediately from the board?
Well, just to
Yeah.
second your comment, I think you've done a lovely job how you laid this out and the other options. The house is a great house. Is part of the objective here, because I happen to be a tree guy, Shane, Kentucky. Village has a hard time getting any trees. But is part of it opening it up? Is one of the benefits with removing these 2 trees is you want to open up kind of the walkway with a view of the house? Is that relevant here? Or?
That's certainly part of it. And you know, I don't know that we can do this here, but there are images of this house as recent as maybe 5 years ago and going back a little further on Street View on Google Maps. And the house, the sunlight that hits the house when the maple, that elm, 8 or 10 years ago were planted and they were maybe 11 feet, 12 feet tall. It's unbelievable, the difference. So part of it is opening up. Part of it is just the benefits of sunlight. And look, we're not here to have a pretty lawn. What we're here to do is promote biodiversity. There are a lot of things that just will not thrive in deep, deep shade. We're talking about 3 layers of shade. It's just pure darkness. And so the real benefit here, I think, is just the benefits of sunlight in all of its form. A couple of, go ahead, I'm sorry, do you have another question?
No, thank you.
You know, we've done our research, and the tree removal permits that have been denied by the board, I'm not as familiar with those, but I listened to one last September, and I thought it was summarized really well, and there were neighbors who opposed it more so than supported it. You all probably remember. But I thought what was really great, or at least what was nice, was the chairwoman at the time. It just sort of stressed the importance of the tree ordinance board working with the applicant to find a solution to not get to this point. And we have had no interaction. I mean, other than just getting the verdict and this is what it is, there's been no back and forth. And this is just us trying repeatedly to try to make some progress. And as I understand it, there's nothing after this. This is it. So this is our best shot.
So you really have not had a meeting with the tree?
We met her, Gail, on site.
Okay.
Well,
he looked.
Sure.
Okay. But you didn't really
and have
get
followed up
together.
since then, and just other than hearing that there was some neighbor objection, not specific points, nothing, just neighbor objection, and that they were not going to change their recommendation. That's the extent of the information I've been working with for months now.
Any other questions for now from the board, or we can open it up to folks here? Okay. Folks who are listening in online, I know we've, is that Ms. Gelman who is
Yes.
speaking? Or, yes, okay. I think you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And I don't know why, I
If
can't-
you would just introduce yourself if you would.
Sure.
And your address.
Susie Gelman, 11 West Lenox Street. In August, we will have lived here 40 years. So we have a long history with the village. I don't know why I can't see anybody online, but I'm hearing all of you. So I just want to make a couple of points. First of all, as I understand, the the village arborist, the tree committee, and the tree ordinance board have all recommended denial. So that's 3 village bodies that are recommending denial of this petition. And I think if the village governance makes any sense or is pertinent, we need to listen very carefully to, frankly, the unanimous opinions of the 3 bodies that opine on tree removal in the village. If we can't go along, if the board of managers can't go along with the recommendations of these various bodies and committees, then why bother to have them? Okay, that's point number 1. Second point is, as the tree committee said, the 2 trees, the village arborist said, the trees in question are healthy and thriving. And another concern has to do with the power lines in front of 18 West Lenox, because what they're saying is, as a consequence of those power lines, the existing street trees in front of 15 West Lenox would never be able to reach their full height and expanse so as to serve as canopy trees. And then this question of removal of mature trees will reduce the village canopy in ways which neither replacement plantings in the back of the property nor the existing street trees can compensate. So I'm just basically going off from primarily what the various bodies in the village are recommending, which is denial. And secondly, as someone who's lived here for 40 years, I walk by this property almost every day. These are lovely trees. There is no reason to take them down. And I don't feel that taking them down and replacing them with trees in the back in any way compensates for removal of these trees. If you have any questions for me, fine. Otherwise, I will stop talking. And I know that, by the way, I also represent the views of Meredith and Peter Wellington at 18 West Lenox across the street. They were not able to participate in this hearing, but they have certainly made their views known along with us. We sent a letter to the village on this point. If anyone has questions for me, fine. Otherwise, I've made my point.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciating those comments, and just one point, and Shana or Aurelio, if you're able to weigh in on this. The arborist and the tree committee and the ordinance board, can you shed light on their reasons for their denial of the permit?
Sure. So the village arborist made the initial assessment of the trees pursuant to the applicant's tree removal permit application. The village arborist assessment is limited to the factors listed in section 17.3, which are the permit standards. If he has determined that a tree does not meet the permit standards, he declares that it is not recommended for approval. That specific direction is given to me as village manager, that if the arborist has determined that a tree is healthy, I therefore must deny the removal pursuant to 17.3 of the village code. The applicants then applied for an appeal to the tree ordinance board. The tree ordinance board was initially structured to streamline the board's appeal process. The idea at the time was that many tree removal cases were coming forward to the board, as has been outlined in staff's report on the case precedents, and were being approved subject to the applicant agreeing to a reforestation plan, generally of a 1-for-1 replacement. Rather than requiring those cases to continue to come to the board with applicants paying for and going through a hearing process, the idea was to streamline the process to constitute a separate body that would hear those cases when they are generally, but the idea was that they were generally to be streamlined. When the tree ordinance board determines either that they seek to deny removal because they believe that the tree does not meet the criteria that's outlined in the code on appeal, as was stated previously by Mr. Morseberger, or if they feel that there's significant objection from neighbors that it necessitates bringing the case forward to the board for a full board hearing, they can choose to do that. In their report, the tree ordinance board's report, they did not speak to the merits of the tree itself. They simply noted that there was neighbor objection, and so therefore they were recommending denial so that the applicant could then proceed forward in bringing their case to the full board for a hearing. When an applicant then chooses to bring the case forward to the village board for full hearing, the code stipulates that our advisory committee, which is the tree committee, receives copy of the hearing notice at the same time that the abutting homeowners receive notice of the case. They are an advisory body. They advise the board both on trees on private property as well as on public property. And so certainly their viewpoint has historically weighed heavily for the board, but is not limiting for the board. The board has taken decisions that have been contrary to the tree committee's recommendation.
And on the merits, what merits of the trees or the pros and cons of removal have the tree ordinance board or the tree committee referenced other than the opposition?
So, sorry, go ahead.
The quote is that because the trees that are in right of way are not canopy trees, because they're under the power
Right.
lines, there will be no canopy trees in the front yard if they're in that area. If they're removed, they can't put them in the right of way, and that's quoted for the committee saying that.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the major reason.
But I thought you mentioned there was east and west, on the east and west side of the property in the front yard. There are.
And actually, I sort of take point with that particular quote. I think that might have been a misstatement. The 3 ash trees directly in front of this house within the public right of way are already at 30 feet. Granted, they are growing in and around power lines, but there's many, many examples of that happening successfully in the village. It is not that the ash trees are not shade trees. They are. They actually get rather large. It's that there's such competition for sunlight that right now the maple and the elm on private property are shading them out to some extent. And I want to say just maybe one more quick statement before I hand it over to Mr. Kaplan. This hasn't come up. It's down to it's precedent, right? And we hear about precedent in a lot of these, and what's the precedent? What has been passed before? What hasn't? And we made an important note in our presentation. And I think when it comes to precedent, nearly all the trees that have been approved in the past have gotten to this level, have been as a result of an addition or a driveway, right? Something that increases impervious coverage and permanently reduces landscape. This is the opposite. We're actually removing and adding, okay, to try to better the environment and permanently benefit the landscape. I will note, just in response to one of the notes earlier, we are replanting a tree in the front yard, a significant size tree in the front yard, off to the side. Let's see if we can go back to our reforestation plan, please. Maybe there's a larger one somewhere. Okay, any one of the plans will work, and I'll just walk over and I'll put it out. These would be the 2 that we removed, and off to the side, within private property adjacent to the driveway. This is where our larger forest tree would be. If I can. Can I say something?
Yes, very quickly, if I may.
Sure. Introduce yourself.
Yes,
if you would.
yep, I'm Joel Kaplan. My wife Laura and I are the homeowners at 15 West Lenox. I'll be really brief. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to the board. I know this is a volunteer service, and I know it's it is challenging to have to resolve these disputes between neighbors. And I just want to say that I appreciate the time that you all have obviously put into it. And thank you for providing us the forum and the consideration. My experience as a homeowner, I have not lived in the village for 40 years. My wife and I were fortunate enough to buy the property at 15 West Lenox in 2022 and have now been in for about 2.5 years. Our goal is to contribute to the overall community in the village and the aesthetic that the village is trying to pursue. That's why we've worked carefully with Joe and his firm on quite a robust reforestation plan to try to address what we understand to be the urban forestation goals of the village. Because of what I do for my day job, I kind of have a general sense of where the votes are going on things sometimes. Feels like maybe this one's not going our way. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that we appreciate the thoughtfulness. The thoughtfulness that the board is putting in. I will say that as the homeowner and as our sort of first, since we've been in the house, real interaction on something like this with the village, it hasn't felt great as an experience. It's been quite opaque, and candidly, it has felt very driven by the opposition of a couple neighbors, and without an opportunity for a lot of give and take. To learning for us. Hopefully, we'll be here for 40 years, and hopefully we won't burden the board too many times during that time here. But overall, I just wanted to thank you for your consideration and just let you know that as a member of the community, as you just think about governance, not of the board, but of the overall the way the process works, it hasn't felt great as the homeowner trying to work productively and constructively. And so hopefully that's something you all can take into consideration in the future as well. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions from the board? And then are there other speakers? I'm not aware of any speakers.
Well, the only other
Go ahead.
comment I make is just the opaque comment. Appreciate you. The great house, but maybe, so the tree committee, other than the head of the tree committee coming out and looking at the tree, you really didn't get a chance to present this to the tree committee.
We provided all that information.
Okay, but there wasn't a meeting.
No interaction.
Okay. Well, that's too bad. They deserve to talk to the tree committee and how many people on the tree committee?
So I just want to make sure that we're clear about the two bodies that we're talking about. So
So,
the tree
Tree
ordinance
ordinance
board.
committee.
Yeah,
Oh.
so the tree ordinance
not the
board
tree
is the
committee.
body that initially
Right.
reviewed this and officially denied it.
Right.
They are a 3-person board.
Great,
Right
okay.
now, later on your agenda is actually an appointment to a vacancy on the tree ordinance board. So that is a small finite body that officially reviews tree removal appeal cases that are brought to them. The tree committee, which is an advisory body, I believe they have about half a dozen
Oh.
people on the tree committee currently.
Got it.
They do not typically meet with appellants. Over the last since 2012, when the board established the tree ordinance board, there have been less than a handful of cases that have actually come to the board that were even referred back over to the tree committee for them to advise the board. So I think you're probably referencing the tree ordinance board.
Yeah, of which
And
there are
as
three.
outlined within the urban forest ordinance, they are to meet with the applicants and also to make outreach to the abutting neighbors. Their mandate currently does not require that they convene a meeting of all of the parties altogether in reviewing the case. The board has set the mandate for the tree ordinance board. Should you choose to revise that process, you certainly can do so.
If I may,
It's
but
for appeal.
the tree ordinance board, to the best of my knowledge, has never said anything other than that there was opposition from a neighbor or two. And just, I guess, tree ordinance board is worthwhile to find that out. Obviously, the board finds that out in the conduct of the appeal, but it's not a lot of feedback that will help us try to resolve the issue in a way that preserves the board's time for other important issues.
And Mr. Richardson, was there any attempt at trying to add to the front yard canopy beyond that tree near the driveway? Just particularly on the east side where Skelman is. It just seems that might be a
Well, actually, in our
Middle
reforestation
ground.
plan, on that side, now they're not shade trees because there's a lot of trees already on the eastern side. We're proposing 5 native dogwoods, which would be understory trees.
in the front yard.
In the front yard, yes. So we would be planting 6 total trees in the front yard. If you take into account all of that canopy, it's close to the 2 trees that we're proposing to be removed. But with the added trees in the rear, we're well and beyond that number,
So half in the front, half in the
more or less,
rear.
yes. So, yeah, and As a professional, as a landscape architect, that's sort of my limit. I'm trying to think about what's happening in 10, 15, 20 years, which maybe didn't happen when those trees were planted 15 years ago.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on?
Yeah, Susie Gelman again. The Kaplan's landscape architect very kindly met with us to talk about the plans for the side of the property that abuts our property. So I have to say, the removal of these trees in the front, as to my recollection, was never brought up in those very positive and productive discussions. And I do want to say we very much appreciate the Kaplan's landscape architect reaching out to us and meeting with us. Having said that, I just want to go back to what I said in my comments, which is we have, well, I guess you're saying maybe the tree ordinance committee and the landscape and the arborists of the village have weighed in. I'm not sure if you're saying that the tree committee did or did not weigh in, but I just feel as a long time, like 4 decades resident of the village, that when village authorities who are tasked with weighing in on trees in the village, which clearly is, we all know, we thrive on the pastoral nature of the village. It's something that we appreciate so much and enjoy when we look out our windows or walk around or sit in our backyard. But when those authorities are weighing in and saying, this is not a good idea, and because of the power lines, the canopy of whatever tree is planted will never reach the height, I just think we need to listen to our authorities and abide by village procedures. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Board members. Further questions, comments, debate?
I haven't opined so far,
Yeah.
so I will say something. I personally, while I am not any kind of landscaping expert, I put as much or more emphasis on what our children will see as what we see. I think that this plan is good for what our children will see.
The plan meaning the proposal.
Yes.
I tell you what I'm wrestling with. And I appreciate the opinions of both sides here. And I keep referring back to the code. And the code offers us some indication of things to balance. Reasons cited by the applicant in terms of long-term reforestation and challenges of trees not getting enough sunlight. Reasons, if any, cited by residents, and I appreciate the residents who are opposed, why they're opposed. And it's a fair point that there are governance bodies that have denied the permit as part of their process. Also, though, that process incorporates whether neighbors are opposed or not. So there's a little bit of circularity there. I think the crux of the tree ordinance board issue is, gee, these, because the other trees are in the right of way, they will never get to full maturity. And that's really, I think, the merits of the tree ordinance board objection. There is an explicit call out for whether the applicant proposes reforestation. And I think that that is the case. And I think it's been an important point that there are 5 additional trees being proposed for the front in a total of 6, counting them correctly. This is more reforestation than almost any other proposal, in terms of ratio of what's being removed to what's being planted. And then skipping forward, gee, what's fair and just? I don't think opposition from a neighbor is an absolute. I think the reasons deserve to be taken into account. There are merits to those reasons here, but they are not an absolute. So that's what I'm wrestling with. Go ahead.
I'd just like to make one more point here, just so that nobody's surprised by this. It's kind of unfortunate that this happened to occur when we have a bare quorum here. And it has to be, we have to have a majority. We have to have 3 voting against this. Yes.
We have,
For the denial.
Two out of 2 to 2 is a no. And so we have, if we want to say yes, they can go ahead with this. It requires 3 of the 4, and that, I don't know whether that's good or bad. It may be that the 3 people who aren't here would have all been rapidly against it. I just don't know.
Yeah. Fair point.
So are you indicating, Gary, we should push it on to the next meeting?
We do meet next Monday.
Sorry.
That is not.
Are we allowed?
That's not a business meeting. and
Can
would not
can we
have
make an
sufficient time
amendment?
to- No, we have to have a 10-day notice period.
Okay.
For any,
All
cases
right.
that are before the board. So no, the earliest you could do it would be 10 days out from now,
Got it.
if you were to delay action.
Okay. I would hesitate to delay action for the sake of not torturing the parties involved. And further,
Beyond. So.
even if there's some chance they might see a decision more to their liking. They won't. I think everybody might agree, let's get on with it. But yes, well,
I think it's up to you whether you want to continue it or not. And I don't think you have to do another 10 days.
I
You have,
couldn't
you have
hear.
the night for night, and if you want to put it off another
Okay.
period of time, you can do so. Everyone was given notice to be here tonight
Got it.
and here.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
second thing is just for clarification, because there is some confusion sometimes between the tree ordinance board and the tree committee.
Mhm.
The tree ordinance board, and I'm looking at their letter, what they've said is, the applicants have submitted a reforestation plan, which they're required to do if they are proposing to remove trees. That includes the planting of 6 native species canopy trees. And then they say at a location that qualifies as meeting the village reforestation requirements. So they've made that recommendation. That's one recommendation. They did say that the location of the trees is sufficient when they look at it. Okay. And it does say, in light of the continued opposition from more than one neighbor, they recommend the removal. So they relied generally on opposition
Neighbors.
as their reasoning. It was the tree committee that proposed or stated the reasoning, and I think maybe Dr. Feather also may have contributed to that a little bit, although it's not in the letters that are in here.
Correct.
He just gave the answers to are they healthy or not.
Right.
That's what's in there.
Right.
That the reason the trees in the tree box are never going to be full size canopy trees or can't be, it's because they're going to be large. So the other ones that will be in that area will be the ones in this yard. So that's a tree committee reasoning for why they did what they did. So I just wanted to clarify for everybody. The tree committee said one thing and it was their reasoning. And it's supported. I mean, there's nothing incorrect about that. But that the tree ordinance board did not give a detailed reason and said it was based on the opposition, but didn't say what in the opposition they were basing it on. So that's right.
On one hand, a continuation might sound appealing, but I'm also concerned that I believe some of the board members absent tonight would be likely to recuse themselves because
I'm not there.
of not being present tonight, and then also having prior awareness or other potential conflicts. They're not required to tell us, but so I'm not sure that a continuation buys us much beyond repeating the discussion tonight without additional votes necessarily.
If it would be helpful, can the board take a straw vote to see where they land before deciding whether, how they want to proceed formally? Since there seems to be concern about whether to take an official position now versus continuing.
Rather than taking a straw vote, I don't know that we've heard from everyone how they're leaning.
I think it's obvious I'm leaning to permit it.
I am as well.
I would prefer to see a sculpting issue on the trees than having them taken out because of I'm embarrassed candidly by the trees we put in the right because of, they never mature in a way to be stately trees. So I think the neighbors that are commenting that, and then Public Service Commission comes through here and massacres all the trees anyway. And so I'm sensitive to the argument being stated about the maturity of these trees and trying to preserve them. So I'll be on that side.
Well, yeah,
May I just note that we're not talking about eliminating all the trees in the front part. There is already a mature sycamore here, 14-inch sycamore that we have removed from the previous application, and we're proposing one more. So we're moving to and proposing. So I'm sensitive to this too. This is my profession, my passion. And so I think 2 mature shade trees in the front yard at this scale of a property is completely appropriate, combined with the 5 or 6 trees that are in the public right of way immediately in front of this home.
For clarification, you only have 1 tree remaining, but the other tree that will be put in is not a mature tree yet, it has to grow, correct?
Yes, but it is a large planting.
Just making sure we're-
Sure.
I am also having taken a look at the trees driven by the property. And as I kind of balance these different factors, while the measurement of 13, 11 inches and declaring that they would be canopy trees at maturity, they are not as substantial a tree as we have discussed in other cases with my recollection. And I don't know that the canopy is substantially deprived by removing these trees and substituting other trees that would also be along the front. So I'm inclined in favor of the proposal as well. That might be a sufficient vote right there to say that we're not deadlocked. So if we move to a vote, is there a motion? Unless anyone objects and would like to discuss further.
Let me just clarify, there is a very detailed motion on your draft motion
Yeah.
sheets that appreciated that this could
Yeah, we do.
go in various different directions. So just to note that you might need to read it with expert carefulness.
Okay. I move to grant the appeal in case A 2917, subject to the issuance of the building permit for the proposed addition and provided the applicants reforest pursuant to the reforestation plan proposed by the applicants.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? 3-1, the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for the thoughtfulness on this, including those online, and knowing that some folks are less pleased with the outcome than others. Thanks all the same.
Yeah.
And moving on. Any immediate follow-up that we need just for documentation purposes? Okay.
Great.
Next up. Where's my agenda? Here we go. Treasurer report. Gary.
I have nothing to add to the written report.
And then moving on. Public hearing on the draft budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1. I believe that a vote on this requires a 4-person absolute majority of the board, no matter how many people are here this evening.
Good news is we're not there just yet.
Oh,
This
okay.
is just a public hearing
Got
on
it.
the
Okay.
FY27
Okay.
budget. The budget amendment, you are absolutely correct, will require an affirmative vote of all of those
Okay.
present.
That's
But we'll
next
be
Monday.
there in just a few minutes.
Okay.
But for the public hearing, I'll just note before you open it up for public comment, we did make some amendments to the draft budget for FY27 following your public hearing in March. Those changes were to restore the $25,000 revenue line item for cable franchise fees. We were a bit too optimistic going into the March meeting, thinking that the county would be able to directly allocate the cable franchise fees to MMC. They are not. Those monies will still come into us, so we need to continue to reflect them as a revenue line item. It also meant that we needed to add it to our capital budget as an expense going out when it is paid out to MMC as what we're proposing, a grant. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this agenda. The other change that we made is in light of the now completed inventory with Pepco for the streetlight network, we identified 17 streetlights that we had not previously been billed for that have now been added to our streetlight bill for energizing and for maintenance. Of course, we still have pending the issue of actual ownership of the streetlights, but for the purposes of the FY27 budget, we did need to increase that line item to reflect those 17 additional streetlights. Of course, notice of this public hearing and of the board's scheduled adoption of the budget and tax rate were publicized in the April issue of the Crier, which included a narrative from the board treasurer as well as a summary of the proposed budget for adoption, a summary of the CIP, as well as a comparison of how we anticipate ending the current fiscal year to the proposed budget for FY27. Other than that, it would be appropriate to open it up for any public comment.
Questions from the board or anyone online?
Given that the only person online is our finance director now.
Moving on.
Okay. Next up, matters for board discussion, consideration, and possible action, beginning with the contract extension authorization for janitorial services. Yeah, Jack?
Yes. Okay. So we are bringing up the janitorial services, and I'm requesting that we exercise the second of our 2 one-year extension options for Be Clean cleaning services. They are entitled to a CPIU rate increase of 2.7% for the new year. We've been satisfied with their work. And yeah, we'd like to go with the second extension.
Move for a
Is there a
motion?
motion?
Yeah. I move to authorize the village manager to execute a letter exercising the second of 2 one-year service contract extensions for janitorial services provided by Be Clean Cleaning Services Incorporated.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. And next up, funding for Bethesda Chevy Chase Communities County Candidate Forums and Open House. Just by way of background, there are going to be 3, call them candidate forums, though one of them is a slightly different format than the others. And you've seen it, hopefully you've seen it on the listserv. Not yet on the listserv, but on our Friday email blast, you've seen it. You will see it on the listserv shortly. But on April 21st, so that is next Tuesday, 7 to 8:30 p.m., a Democratic District 1 County Council Forum, which will include all 3 of the Democratic candidates for District 1. That's our county council member. Drew Morrison, Debbie Spielberg, and Julie Yang will all be present. This will be at the Lawton Center, the Jane Lawton Center in the town. On Sunday, April 26th, from 3 to 5 p.m., there will be a Democratic County Executive Forum with all 5 of the Democratic County Executive candidates. Again, Sunday, April 26th, 3 to 5 p.m. And then closing out on Tuesday, April 28th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. with an at-large county council open house. So that is where all at-large county council candidates can have a table, meet with residents, share literature and so forth. And that will also include Republican county executive candidates and any other, if were there to be Republican District 1 candidates, they would also be welcome to attend that at-large open house. This has been organized by, on behalf of the village, the East Bethesda Citizens Association, Rollingwood, Town of Chevy Chase, and the Village of Chevy Chase, Section 5. And we've also invited other municipalities, Somerset, Drummond, Martin's Addition, and a few others. So we expect an interesting event. It will be live streamed by Montgomery Municipal Cable. And thank you, David, for the helping out on that front. And it'll also be later available on YouTube. So I'm pitching this as an entree to the fact that there will be a few $100s of expenses likely associated with this. And I think therefore if the board would see fit to authorize the village's share of those expenses up to $300, that would be much appreciated, if I may say so, in the role of chair tonight. But are there any questions, and is there a motion?
Well, you know, as the custodian of our finances, I move to authorize funding the planned county candidate forums and open house in an amount not to exceed $300.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And passes unanimously. And then moving on next, the grant agreement regarding Montgomery Municipal Cable.
Yeah, so this is the document that will facilitate the direction that we received from the board during your budget work session in February, which was to allocate the monies that we received through the cable franchise fees over to Montgomery Municipal Cable for their use for operating expenses. And so while the budget reflects anticipated revenue of $25,000 for FY26 and FY27, only the monies that we actually receive in cable franchise fees will be allocated over to MMC. So thank you to Sue Ellen Ferguson, who put together this grant agreement to facilitate the board's intention of donating these funds over to Montgomery Municipal Cable. They have had an opportunity to review the agreement. Both their station manager and their consulting attorney have reviewed it and had some initial questions that we've responded to, and they seem to be in agreement now with the terms of the agreement that's before you. We made one very small, non-sensitive edit within the document, but otherwise they are in favor of moving forward with it. Just also wanted to note that we've had discussions with them that the actual remittance of funds will be tied to their confirmation each year of their being in good standing with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation. They're filing this week for the 2025 tax year once we get confirmation of that, and have received the final tranche of fees that we received via the county from Verizon and Comcast. We will then remit those fees over to them. So unless there are any questions or concerns about the agreement, we would request board authorization to move forward with it.
Sounds good. And therefore, we've got a motion on that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
I move to authorize the village manager to execute the grant agreement between the village and Montgomery Municipal Cable Incorporated, authorizing issuance of the village's cable franchise fee revenues as drafted.
Second. And all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
And next to the, yeah.
I for one got the drift of this one. I just spent a lot of time.
Yes, okay, got it. I will just say, as noted there, these are all items that we have previously discussed that are reflected here in this resolution to amend the FY26 budget. Many of them, I'm sure, village priorities for sidewalk maintenance, for expenses that we've already allocated, changeover for HVAC, or winter storm response, et cetera. And so this is just right sizing
Say
the
they look
budget.
familiar.
Yeah, specific to things that we've already discussed at previous meetings.
I move to adopt the resolution number 040126 as drafted.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
On to commission and committee matters, Building Facilities Commission.
Board reappointment for Dixie Noonan, who has served, I think, one term now on the Building Facilities Commission. This would be her second appointment. Right, so this will be her first full term on the Building Facilities Commission.
And is there a motion?
I move to reappoint Dixie Noonan as a member of the Building Facilities Committee for a 5-year term expiring April 2031.
Second.
All in favor? And to the Tree Ordinance Board.
Happy to have a volunteer to fill what has been a long vacancy now on the Tree Ordinance Board. We still have a vacancy in the alternate, so if you know of anyone who may be interested in serving on the Tree Ordinance Board, please do send them our way. But Mr. Fine of Grafton Street, longtime resident of the village, has agreed to step up to serve on the Tree Ordinance Board and to chair it, as bold as that may sound.
Terrific.
Yes.
I move to appoint Glenn Fine of Grafton Street as a member of the Tree Ordinance Board for a 3-year term expiring April 2029, and to designate Mr. Fine to serve as chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you very much.
for sure. And the police report, Lieutenant De Silva joining us this evening.
Good
Thank you
afternoon. We had 3 deaths from auto during the month of March. 2 were from contract workers, and 1 was from somebody visiting All Saints. All occurred during the day. And then there was a road rage incident at Connecticut and Bradley that turned into a simple assault. No further information on that to lead up any follow-ups.
Was that daytime or night?
That was daytime also. Somebody ran out of gas and somebody was not happy about that. So words were exchanged and some spitting.
Nice.
Classic.
Let's be thankful that's not a common occurrence. Let's count on it not happening again anytime soon.
Oh, it's who Mr. Noonan was replacing. Got it. Got it.
Not Shields. Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And the manager's report.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that everyone has on their calendar. Of course, we'll all be reconvening a week from today for the annual meeting here in the Village Hall. We have sent out a direct welcome to new residents who have moved into the village over the course of the last year to welcome them to join us for the reception and for the annual meeting. So we're hoping for a good turnout. I also just want to note and thank a couple of the people on my staff for recent efforts in bringing a couple of things forward to fruition. Number one, I'm sure he loves the spotlight, Lieutenant De Silva, just to thank him for his efforts in getting our new security camera system in place. We had budgeted for that in the CIP for this year. And due to Lieutenant De Silva's knowledge of technology and due diligence, we were able to execute that project $6,000 under budget. So really appreciate his efforts on that.
Thank you.
Also just wanted to note and thank Jennifer Young for her efforts in beginning what will be a lengthy process for us in getting ADA compliant with our eventual new website. There are various different components now under the federal requirements for local governments to have ADA compliant websites. One of the things that they are stressing is that if you have a website where you are posting the audio or video recordings of your public meetings, that there should be a transcript that is also posted along with those. The easiest way to facilitate that is to do so through YouTube. So it requires uploading our meeting recordings into YouTube, and YouTube has a function that does, not perfect, but does an auto transcription service for the meeting. So to start our process of getting up to speed in that, which is one of many components that we'll need to update for the new website, Jennifer has gone ahead and created for us a YouTube channel. We sound very modern and popular here. And she's uploaded the last 12 months worth of board meeting recordings to that so that they're preloaded and available for any residents who would like to go on and do that.
Did that crash all the servers?
Not yet.
Well, but the Netflix advertising doesn't start.
More to come, more to
More to
come.
come.
So just wanted to note those couple of things as well, just for the board's knowledge, and to thank Jennifer and Tito for their efforts on those. Other than that, I have nothing else to add.
What does that mean?
Whoever
Does that
do we
imply?
turn to?
Is there a motion?
Yes,
Motion
I so want to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You.